North Korea has carried out its biggest ballistic missile launch in 5 years. The test over the Sea of Japan was the 7th this month. David Bamford reports.
Japan and South Korea say that unlike the short-range weapons used in the 6 other recent tests, the North Koreans have this time apparently used an intermediate-range missile which reached an altitude of 2,000 kilometres before coming down into the Sea of Japan. In response, the South Korean President Moon Jae-in summoned the National Security Council for the first time in a year. He said North Korea had taken a step closer to abandoning its self-imposed moratorium on testing intercontinental range missiles and urged Pyongyang to stop future tests.
The Israeli President Isaac Herzog is in the United Arab Emirates on the first visit there by an Israeli head of state. His trip follows one by the Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett in December. Here's our Middle East analyst Sebastian Usher.
As he left for the UAE, President Herzog said that it wasn't every day that you had the privilege of making history. His visit comes, as ever, at a sensitive time in the region. The UAE has been attacked twice this month by armed drones fired by the Iranian-backed Houthi movement in Yemen. Israel has offered security and intelligence support. It's a sign of how quickly the two countries have merged their interests since normalizing ties back in 2020 as part of the so-called Abraham Accords. That deal formalized what was already an increasingly close relationship.
The United Nations has warned of a deepening humanitarian crisis in Myanmar, a year after the military seized power. A spokesman said Myanmar had seen an intensification of violence and a rapid rise in poverty since the elected civilian government was toppled. James Rodehaver leads the Myanmar team at the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights.
Every time we say that the situation can't get worse, it seems to do so. You have a human rights catastrophe in the country, which has then led to humanitarian crisis, economic fallout, and a deepening political crisis in the country, and it has its own spillover effects.